Yeah, we're live with David Rothkopf. It's been trying to get him on. It's been hard to get, but we got him, and I'm very happy to see you. Thank you for joining me.
Well, I'm in demand, Pete. You know,
You are.
it's just it's this what happens.
What happens when you become as
A superstar.
a superstar in
Oh,
media,
oh yeah, media. Yep.
a media titan, a king.
Um. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you
Yep.
do great work. Deep State Radio Network. You guys have some of the smartest conversations and the smartest guests.
Yeah, and we're growing like crazy. I got to tell you.
I gotta say that. What's your deal with the Greg Sargent? You guys produce his show. His show is very good. I listen to it every day.
Yeah, we produce that.
He's a very smart guy.
Very smart guy.
Yeah. Well, good talking to you. Thanks.
You're a smart guy too, Pete.
I don't know Greg Sargent. I know David Rothkopf or any of these.
Oh man, who is? Who is?
I'm smart at getting smart people to talk to me. Is what I'm good at. So look at this.
Good at the, yeah. No, that's it's something. I wouldn't sniff at it.
No. Well, I got a lot of questions I want to ask this guy. So first of all, I know you're a big fan of this ballroom.
It's great. Everybody should dance. Let's dance.
That is being built. You're pretty excited by it. You wrote a piece about it, as a matter of fact, for the Daily Beast. It's no small thing because of what it represents, of course, and there's a lot of different ways to think about it. Everybody should go read your piece, but they tore down the whole East Wing. Can we just start with the fact that they just tore down part of the White House?
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy, and there are laws, and they break the laws. They break laws every day. We're numb to it. Nobody stands up to it. We used to have a Congress that would stand up to it. We don't have a Congress anymore. We used to have courts that would stand up to these things. We don't really have courts that stand up to these things anymore. And so anything that they do that breaks the law or violates a norm or is an offense to our society also ends up being a confirmation of the institutional failure that's plaguing our society and having us circling the drain at quite the speed.
Well said. Very well said. Yet Congress is standing up. The Democrats are standing up against the Republicans. That's why the whole damn government shut down for week 4?
Yeah. Well, and that'll go on for a while. And glad they did it. Now, having said that, they're standing up against the Republicans for the bill a bunch of them voted for last spring, saying, "Oh yeah, we'll get them in the fall." And it's like, okay, I mean, what kind of games are we all playing here? It'd be great if the Congress did what the Congress was supposed to do. It's not that difficult, They have the power of the purse. Write a budget, ensure the budget is enforced, ensure the president doesn't do that, oversee the executive branch in terms of, how it's behaving. There's not a whole lot of things for them to do, but they don't do any of them.
Well, it certainly seems like the Republican Party in Congress has zero independence from the regime, from Trump himself. And in fact, so beholden. I guess Trump made a comment about it that got picked up, but apparently he's like, yeah, Mike Johnson does whatever I tell him. He's like my little, I can tell him whatever to do. He jumps, I jump. And right now, Mike Johnson is keeping the House closed, so he doesn't have. Is it true, David, that there's only one way to think about why the House is still out of session? It's because they don't want to have to bring in this new congresswoman and have this discharge petition completed and release Epstein files? Is it that simple?
Well, I think that's certainly part of it. Frankly, they should have admitted her a long time ago anyway. People are admitted when Congress is not in full session anyway, just in pro forma session. That's been done in the past, done for Republicans. So clearly they object to that. They don't want to bring this thing forward. But they also don't want to grapple with the reality, which is the Democrats are winning the argument because it's true that the Republicans don't care that millions of Americans are going to lose their health care. And some will go bankrupt, some will die, some will suffer. And that's, a central element of that big, hideous bill. One element was give tax cuts to billionaires. The other was fuck the rest of us. And the Democrats are zeroing in, finally, at last, on the fuck the rest of us component.
It's outrageous when you take a look at the bill about how much money they gave away in continued and new tax cuts. It's also outrageous when you look at the cuts that they've made, and yet the money they continue.
They give money to Trump's friends, and they take money from everybody else. And by the way, it's global. They're giving more money to the president of Argentina, which, in order to help him win an election, than was in the budget for USAID this year, which helped actually the United States of America. They give money to, billionaires so that they can have more billions, and the rest of us get squeezed. And, it's not popular. Despite what Trump says, his approval ratings are down in the dumps because people realize that they're getting slammed, that prices are going up, that our standing in the world is falling, that, services are non-existent right now. And we're just about at the moment where people who, for one reason or another, need food aid from the United States of America in the form of SNAP aren't going to get it. They're going to go hungry. People are going to go hungry, one of the richest countries in the history of the world, because our government's incompetent, because our president really doesn't care about the American people, and neither do the Republicans. So, I mean, that's pretty disgusting, right? Pretty disgusting that people are going to starve and people are not going to be able to get health care because of that kind of thing. Or that we ended cancer research for little children so that Elon Musk could have $1 more.
You're for cancer research for children? You support that?
Radical proposal, radical democratic socialist proposal, crazy Zoran Mamdani, nutty proposal that we should try to help little kids with dangerous diseases.
Shouldn't they pull themselves up by their bootstraps?
If they were real Americans, they would. If they were, as good as Charlie Kirk, they would.
You talk about Trump's friends. I mean, he's not even giving disaster aid to blue states like Maryland, who needs $30 million. They need $30 million for relief from their floods. And he's like punishing.
Sounds to me like you were listening to Greg Sargent's podcast today.
He's absolutely where I got this from. He's been banging that drum. It's super important.
Well, yeah, but what was the punchline of the podcast was that a bunch of people who are really getting squeezed in the state of Maryland live in Western Maryland in districts where 40 to 50% margins for Trump exist, because these are people in Appalachia who kind of, they're like West Virginians, right? They're very pro-Trump. And these are the people who are getting screwed. And sooner or later, these people are going to go, hey, wait a minute. It's like, I'm an American farmer. How come I'm getting screwed? I mean, I know Scott Bessent, are just unbelievably unctuous and unpleasant Treasury Secretary, says he's a soybean farmer and he's feeling the pain. Well, imagine for a second, do you have any cattle on your ranch?
I do.
Yeah, of course. And so when you think, well, I will raise cattle and then I'm going to sell some of them for beef. But the president says, screw you. I'm going to screw the international markets that you use, but I'm going to give special ability to the Argentines to import that cattle.
It's crazy. That's what's his obsession with this guy, Javier Milei, who just won re-election apparently, and partly
because Trump helped him. He likes Javier Milei because Javier Milei likes him. He kissed his ass. He walked around on stage with Elon with a big chainsaw. And his whole policy approach is, sort of libertarian, over free markets, and screw the little guy. And screw the little guy is so core to Trump. But also Javier Milei is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Is
You
he?
know, he's got 5 cloned dogs. He taught tantric sex. Now, you've taught tantric sex,
I did
so it's
for
not everybody. Well,
semester,
yeah, you're famous.
one semester.
Famous for that, because you're famous for making women say, no, I think I can withhold my pleasure.
All I do is show up.
And they go, I think I'm feeling strength.
You have no idea
Inner
how hard
strength.
it is for them.
Yeah, no, but yet somehow. But this, Javier Milei actually taught tantric sex. Maybe still does, as far as I know. And has, like Trump, one of the 2 worst haircuts in the Americas.
He's a weird dude. Let's stay in South America, because the president of peace, who's brought peace to all over the planet,
everywhere, every fucking country.
so
Had
many.
a war. He solved. You know what he did? He announced the other day at a Greek restaurant, solved the Peloponnesian Wars.
Wow, that's they got to hand it to him.
No, they've been people say they've been going on for thousands of years. But
I mean, he is the peacemaker. It's ironic that he's making all this peace in the rest of the world, and his own people are in a war, it would seem, against each other, Americans, that is. But
he's invaded Portland.
Exactly. I mean, seriously, it's wild how divisive he is at home, and he's, quote, trying to bring people together. But it would seem that the peacemaker is saber rattling. I've read a little bit about this. It looks like Marco Rubio has a real hard on for Venezuela and is kind of running a secret war. Oh, and they're just killing people in boats. They might be fishermen. They might be drug smugglers. They might, I think, just be boat owners. And when you have a boat with 3 outboard motors, sometimes you're using it to fish. Sometimes you're helping someone move a dresser, and maybe sometimes a couple keys of Coke on your way to the DR. But regardless, no questions asked. Hegseth, the Department of War, is just blowing them up. It doesn't seem very peaceful, is what I'm saying. What are we doing with Venezuela?
Well, first of all, we killed 40 people without any evidence, without any due process, because they hate due process, because it's weak. Due process is woke. But they want to go and they want to get into a war with Venezuela. 1/7 of the United States naval assets are currently off the coast of Venezuela, which does not, pose a threat to us in any respect, including, by the way, the one that they say it poses. Venezuela is not a major drug transshipment point. They're just using that as an excuse to go after them. But this is classic. This is the bully picking on the scrawny little kid at the cafeteria table. I hope this is not triggering you, but it's ridiculous to think that the most powerful military force on earth is going to turn its attention to Venezuela. But it ties into a bunch of things. It ties into Stephen Miller's hatred of Latino people, hatred of immigrants. It ties into the false narrative about how gangs are destroying America with this Tren de Aragua. It ties into Marco Rubio's obsession with Maduro, who's a terrible guy, by the way. Nobody should be in favor of Maduro. But it ties into that. It ties into their desire to look strong. It ties into the fact that the country has a lot of oil. We're not really sure what Trump wants from all of that, but it's got a lot of oil. It's got a lot of aluminum. It's got a lot of mineral resources. So maybe he's got some scam that he's playing there. Who knows? But it's cuckoo. If I were Mexico and I saw the United States flexing its muscles against the Venezuelans, I'd be real concerned. He doesn't like the Colombians much. I'd be more concerned. But back to those boats, by the way, none of those boats that they've sunk actually were of a type that could actually make it all the way to the United States.
They're South America. They're like 3 outboard. They're not big boats. They don't go more than.
Well, that's right. That's right. I saw some guy, some right winger on the Twitter, or I don't patronize Twitter, on Blue Sky, saying something about how here's a boat and it's full of full of drugs. Don't tell me it's a fishing boat. And then somebody else said, the picture was from 2012.
Yeah.
And the guy said, your mama, which is a weird thing, but this White House responds to a lot of people. If you noticed that a couple times recently in the recent past, people have posed difficult questions for the press secretary or the White House director of communications. And the response of the White House has been, your mother.
That's right. They asked Carolyn Levitt and Stephen Chung the same question, like who's going to be at the summit or whatever it was. It was a who question, and they answered both of them, your mother, which I actually thought was how initially when I saw that they answered your mother, I laughed and then I cried because of who it was said and it was being said to and who said it, and it was awful. But at first it's like, how can that be? How can you say that?
Yeah, well, and I think, what's missing here is they all think this is high entertainment. And it's Trump flying around in his airplane, dumping shit in the American people or whatever they do, which they think is like, oh, that's going to get, that's flooding the zone and that's going to get all sorts of clicks and all this other stuff. But what people aren't driving home to you, when the White House says to a legitimate question from a legitimate reporter, your mother, what they're saying to the American people is, fuck you.
Yeah.
You don't deserve to know anything.
That's right.
We don't respect you as citizens of the United States. And that's, but that's their whole attitude. Their whole attitude. This is the fuck you administration with a policy of fuck you very much.
Yep.
And in America, half Mike Johnson is like, well, I don't see anything wrong with that. And, John Thune is like, well, the president's got a quirky style, but we support him. And that, look where we are.
Yeah, the president likes to, have fun on social media. But
did you see the Netflix movie House Full of Dynamite?
I did.
It's good, right?
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed with the ending.
Yeah, because you wanted to see the world end, didn't you?
No,
you wanted to see the end. We wanted bombs to go off.
No spoilers.
Yeah, come on.
But what's his name? That actor that plays the president?
Idris Elba.
Yeah, I wanted him to take care of everything. Is all.
Well, he did, and well, anyway, let's set that aside for a second. I think there is something in that movie that we don't tie enough to the insanity in the White House. Okay, there is one person on earth who has the ability to launch the entire United States nuclear arsenal purely at their whim. If the president of the United States, if Donald Trump decided that the crazy thing he was going to do today was nuke Venezuela or nuke anywhere else, no one could stop him. Do you know how long it would be between him saying nuke this place and the missiles going up? Do you know?
I think someone would stop him.
No. Well, first of all, I don't think they would. There is no mechanism to stop him. But secondly, it's 4 minutes. It's 4 minutes from the time the president gives the order to the missiles being launched. What I'm saying is there's all sorts of crazy stuff that we shrug off as being impossible. You couldn't invade Portland. You couldn't threaten to take over Greenland. You couldn't stand up for Vladimir Putin and against all our allies. You couldn't, steal billions of dollars in public view. You couldn't say you were going to run for a third term. You couldn't do all this crazy shit. And guess what? You could say the same thing about firing nuclear weapons. And yet, he can do that. He can do that. And the guy's not compos mentis. He's crazy.
I also felt like that movie showed how chaotic things can be and how difficult, no matter how prepared you are for something, it could be to complete a mission. And that's with the most qualified people in charge. And I feel like that's the case of that show, Netflix. like there's no show that's been able to dramatize or characterize having a madman in charge, an unpredictable madman in charge this way, and to have the federal government be led by not only a madman but so many unqualified people, and what that leads to, not only that, this the general morale decline that we've heard about, especially with this government shutdown. It does beg the question.
Right. And when you say, well, Pete Hegseth, oh, yeah, he's a frat boy. Ha, ha, ha. No, he's the Secretary of Defense. Okay. He is in it. Okay. Oh, well, they fired a bunch of generals just because they were women or they were black people. And they're putting in place a bunch of right wing nuts who would do whatever Trump said. Oh, that's interesting. Now, it is. If you went out to dinner tonight with your best buddies and you said, do you think that it's possible that Donald Trump will deploy American troops in American cities next year during the election to suppress the vote? And there were 10 buddies there. How many would say, yeah, I think that's possible?
Yeah.
10. 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, I just want everybody to be aware of the consequences of accepting insanity, illegality, and evil as parts of our daily, life and as aspects of our own government, because they don't stop here.
They're in Asia right now, making sure everything gets taken care of. What do you want to say about the big Asian summit and what this is all about? Why didn't you go? I figured you would have gone.
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, I'm not, I wasn't invited, but I do think, something that is semi-good will come out of this. And that is, there is one country in the world that actually gets how to deal with Donald Trump. And by the way, it's not Thailand, which had a little ceremony and said, oh, yeah, you helped us solve the war with Cambodia. That was bullshit. And it's not Japan, which said, hey, why don't you come meet the emperor, who also has no power, but it's going to make you feel better. And, oh, yeah, we're promising you $550 billion in trade, but we're actually never going to do that. It's not them. It's China.
Yeah.
It's Xi Jinping. Their response to Trump is, heck no. We are equal. We are not going to be bullied. And the result of that is Trump respects them, and Trump desperately wants to deal with them. And they've said they're going to announce a framework to forestall further tariff increases. And then they're going to have another discussion, which will predate Trump going to China next year to meet with Xi, in which they will cut some kinds of tariff deals, which, by the way, will reduce our tariffs a little bit, and we'll have the Chinese promising to do some crazy shit about buying a whole bunch of things, which they know they don't have to do because they did it the last time he was president. Right. They said, oh, yeah, we're going to buy hundreds of billions of dollars, and then they never got around to it. They know how to play him, and he knows that they're the ones that hold the cards. And frankly, I think he's, be perfectly happy to give them a wink and a nod on Taiwan. So, I don't know that we're going to get quite there, but I do expect that Trump and Xi will have what amounts to successful meeting, in the sense that Trump will promise not to do some of the crazy ass shit that he's threatened to do to them.
Right.
But let me ask you a thing. What do you think of the Canadian tariff increase?
Of what he did the other day when he had a bad dream?
Yeah, because he saw a commercial that said Ronald Reagan didn't like tariffs, and he said, "Okay, I'm going to increase the tariffs on them." First of all, he doesn't have the power to do that, but he's doing it anyway. No one's stopping him. But secondly, Ronald Reagan actually said what Trump is saying was fraudulent. It's not fraudulent. Reagan didn't like tariffs, but Trump, he just gets triggered in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden, via tweet, deepens a trade war with our number one trading partner, which goes back to my point. We have a very high tolerance for utter lunacy these days.
I think that it's interesting to pay attention to how Canada's reacting. Like, they're just getting more and more unified by the punitive measures that we are taking. And there's this solidarity in terms of their consumption, where they buy stuff. They're like, they hate us. it's
Do you blame them? Do you blame them? I mean, we're treating them like
I always blame them for everything. I blame them for arguments I've had in my personal life.
Do you want to sing a chorus of Blame Canada here?
Yes, please. Yeah. I usually do. That's how I wake up in the morning. I mean, it's crazy to think that you could alienate Canada so much and so consistently, just in case it would seem that things might, quote, normalize. He goes
and let's be honest. Canadians are the world's, it's the nicest country in the world. There is no other place. I mean, the people in Canada are nice. Everything is nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's not necessarily the most edgy country in the world. It gave us, Justin Bieber and Shania Twain and some,
great comedy.
You have Second City. Yeah. Well, yeah. There's, they gave us, Eugene Levy, I guess, and some of those folks.
Jim Carrey, Michael J. Fox, John Candy. Queen.
Yeah. Exactly. John Candy. Exactly. Well, that's fine. And Degrassi High. I know you watched Degrassi High a lot, and
I did.
We're an early Drake fan from Degrassi.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were the days. But picking on the Canadians, it's just inexcusable. But here's the thing. They're our number one trading partner. There are millions of Americans who depend on our trade with Canada for their jobs, for their well-being, for the economies in their states. And all of those people are getting punished as well because Donald Trump, after all this, he doesn't know how tariffs work. After all of this, he still doesn't get how tariffs work.
What do you make of Justin Trudeau dating Katy Perry? That's pretty cool, I think.
I think it's on brand for both of them.
Oh.
And it's completely, if you were to say pick a world leader, former world leader that Katy Perry would date, or if you were to say pick somebody who would date Katy Perry, who was the prime minister of country to the north of us, I would pick Justin Trudeau and Katy Perry every time.
I think it's great, and I'm rooting for them. I'll be disappointed if they break up.
They will. They will.
Do you think Orlando Bloom is okay? Did he choose to get out of that? Do you know anything about what happened there?
It's funny. I'm not that close with Orlando and Katie, but if I saw Katie go up in that Blue Origin spaceship or whatever she went up, I would be like, okay, I'm done with you.
That was a real turnoff. I just asked because it's possible that you're really good friends with them because, of course, you were friends with Bob Redford. We learned.
Some of the things in my life are real, and you mock them. But I know some people. I used to be in show business.
No, I
used to be a theater director. I'm
not mocking it.
I could name some names.
I've seen you, and I think that it's impressive. I'm very impressed with that. That's why I've tried to get closer to you, so I can get closer to some of those names.
Okay. But it's important to draw a line.
Wait. All right, my last question I want to ask you. I had two more. Ukraine, Russia, the latest. Zelensky was here. It sounds like it did not go that well. Trump apparently yelled at him behind the scenes, didn't give him these missiles. That there was some question he might get missiles. But today I saw you were sharing, I think on Blue Sky, this statement from Zelensky where he's thanking the UK and France. I also saw an article, I don't know how good it is, the journalism, that there's this, it's not looking good for Putin right now. He's on the brink. Others want to get rid of him. Some former expats, some powerful expats that he got rid of. rather. And so what are your thoughts on the latest there?
My thoughts are that Trump hasn't not changed his position at all. It was always pro-Putin. He's the one who cut off a lot of the U.S. supplies to Ukraine. He has not restored them. He has not imposed anything serious in the way of sanctions with Russia. Russia triggered him a little bit by humiliating him time and time again on this war. And so he has put into place some sanctions on two Russian oil companies. But the real trick is going to be whether he then does secondary sanctions on the Chinese or others who buy oil from them. And my guess is he's not gonna, because there is a pattern here, and the pattern is soft on Russia, hard on Ukraine. It's why the meeting with Zelensky went badly. Having said that, we did an episode of Deep State Radio with the former ambassador to the Ukraine, Bill Taylor, and Rosa Brooks just the other day, and we were talking about this, and Bill thought, there's been a little bit of progress. At least he's doing some sanctions. And I think something bigger is going on, which is something you just alluded to, and that is that our allies, which were depending on us to do everything, don't depend on us to do everything.
Yeah.
And there is a blessing in that. We should be more supportive of them, but the reality is that if the Europeans will step up and do the right thing and provide the missiles and provide the money and help harden our defenses against Putin, that's a very, very good thing. And I think that's happening because they realize Putin is testing their limits in Moldova, in Georgia, in the Baltics, in Poland, as well as in Ukraine. And they realize that if they don't strike, a unified, strong posture versus Putin, they're going to have a bigger problem.
Lastly, wanted to ask you about the No Kings protests. You just had a conversation with Simon Rosenberg and who's that woman?
Tara McGowan.
Tara McGowan, very smart, and talked about the results of the protests. What do they mean? Where are we at? My reaction was it was 2 million the first time, 5 million. This one was 7 million. And this last one, I feel like probably a lot of people didn't come out because they've seen the violence in the streets. They were probably legitimately worried there'd be crazy people trying to run people down with their dumb pickup trucks, or ICE would be out there. Or Trump would, use it as a way to create more violence. But in fact, there were very few arrests. There was very little violence. And I think that's a good thing. And I think it's encouraging that more people will come out the next time. That's my smart take. I'm sure you're wildly impressed by it.
I'm wildly impressed. Can you answer a question for me, though? Because I've tried on my own podcast to get an answer for this, and I just don't know the answer.
Yeah.
If you have an inflatable frog suit, do you inflate the suit and then get in it? Or do you get in it and then inflate it?
Yeah, you get in them and then you hit a switch and then it inflates. It's not already inflated when you get in there.
It's not already.
No, but if it were, I'd probably try to have sex with it.
Are you a plushie?
I would like to be. I have never, but I'm interested in it. Like if it were already fully formed and there was like a hole somewhere, I'd probably be like, huh.
Yeah, none of your listeners are surprised, Pete. Anyway, my view is that, anytime 7 million Americans get up and do something, you got to say, wow, they something's going on here. I personally do not, I'm not like really like a huge fan of these big, decentralized protests.
Right.
I'm old enough to remember Occupy Wall Street, which seemed like, oh yeah, that's great, Occupy Wall Street. But there was no leader, there was no agenda, there was no ask, and it never led anywhere. Would I like to see these grow? Yes. Is it good because it mobilizes people? Yes. Does it send a good message? Sure. Would it be better if it were a national strike that really shut things down in this country? I think it would. And we'll have to see how far we have to go, because it goes back to this point before. In any circumstance, and this is what Tara and Simon were saying on the podcast, such as the one we're in now, where Trump's approval ratings are in the 30s, where the economy is trending in a bad direction. Prices are going up. The economy is slowing down. Jobs are not being created, where our standing in the world is falling, where people are getting kicked off of healthcare, kicked out of the VA, not being able to get food stamps, not getting the services they want. And it was a midterm election. You would absolutely know that there would be a huge wave election for the Democrats. And so the political conditions in the United States, and it's manifest in these No Kings rallies, are good if you oppose Trump. The problem is none of us, to go back to the earlier point, are sure just how free and fair the elections are going to be. And so we, if you and I were sitting here, we'd go, well, the Democrats are going to win next year, and what should their agenda be? But we don't know, because there's gerrymandering, because Trump cheats, because he's going to send troops into these places, because he's going to send ICE into these places, because, when he sends ICE to the Super Bowl to arrest Bad Bunny fans, a lot of people are going to go, should I show up to vote? Because I could, something bad could happen to me, even if I'm an American citizen. And so, there's a lot of thumbs being put on the scales right now. And that's the question. The real question before the United States right now is not will we have free and fair elections? We won't. It's how free and fair will the elections be? And will they be free and fair enough for the Democrats to retake one or the other house of the Congress?
That is a really, really good way of framing it. Not will it be free and fair, but how many restrictions, how many thumbs will be on the scale? How many obstacles will there be in the way of fairness and a pathway to a fair vote? But we've already seen the gerrymandering, and they're always sowing. He's always sowing doubt, constantly working on. Right now, I think this upcoming election in California, he's trying to sow doubt about the Prop 50 vote.
Well, that's another topic which I expected you to bring up, but we can
Katy Perry
wrap up. No, I knew you'd bring that up. Is it is he going to run for a third term?
Oh,
what I mean, and he's been talking about it yesterday. He's been talking about it. Well, of course he can't run for a third term, but
Steve Bannon says he'll take care of it.
Yeah, but Steve Bannon says we have a way around it. But I think personally, I don't think he's going to be able to run for a third term for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is his health. Viz the MRI that he said he had, without explaining why. Everybody has an MRI.
Well, I'd get an MRI if I were president. Just throw me through that tube and just make,
I would no way would I do that. I hate that. I'm claustrophobic. The idea of going in those tubes, I hate that idea. Anyway, but the reality is, if people realize that Donald Trump is about to be 80, is losing his marbles, is going to lose in next year's elections, and is a lame duck, this whole house of cards of him as the all-powerful king collapses instantly. And people start going, well, is it going to be JD? Is it going to be Marco? Who's going to be the other one? Is it going to be a Democrat? And all of a sudden, all the billionaires start running to the other side of the boat, and the boat starts tipping in the other direction, because they're like, well, we got to get behind whoever it is, because we want to buy them off so that they do policies that we want. And we would stop talking about Trump. The only way Trump can keep the conversation about himself is to perpetuate the idea that he is president beyond 2028.
Well, I mean, he's printed hats.
Well, okay, that's an absolute commitment on his part to run, and that undoes the Constitution, because there is the clause that says if you print a bunch of baseball caps that reverse anything in the Constitution, it is null and void. But the point is, there is a political objective behind this. I think he realizes he's vulnerable.
And so he
says, I'm going to run again, and I'm still relevant, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, that would be an argument that he's got his wits about him, that he's sane, that he's not senile.
Look, as we all know from our own experiences in life, and as people may conclude from just listening to this podcast, people can become senile in ways, but not in every way, right? Trump,
I'm attracted to inflatables. That doesn't make me senile.
Yeah, and I really hope that there's a GoFundMe among your listeners to get you that inflatable frog costume that you would like to enter into a lasting relationship with.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that, and I look forward to joining you on the next podcast when you're in that costume one way or another. But the you know the reality is here, we're in a very, very ugly place in American politics that we've never been there before, and people need to know that unless they wake up, unless they spread the word, unless they get active themselves, unless they're not afraid to push back, unless they resist the intimidation of the government, everything that they sort of thought was factored into this sort of American equation can no longer be counted on.
And if you want to know more about what you need to know, go read David's Substack called Need to Know, davidrothkopf.substack.com, and go subscribe to Deep State Radio, where there's just a massive media presence of several different really smart shows hosted by very smart people that I listen to religiously.
Go to the DSR network, or our fastest audience growth, probably like yours, is on YouTube. So
yes, go to
subscribe on YouTube, like it on YouTube.
YouTube.com/Deep State Radio.
Something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to find it right now and subscribe. And I hope that everybody else will as well. Thank you very much for joining me.
Always a pleasure, Pete.
Appreciate you. And everybody for watching live. Appreciate you too. And I will talk to you later. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody. Got to go get an inflation.